we're in a space right now in society where everybody's kind of, I say everybody very loosely, looking at this script that we have written for this play that we are performing called Living. And we're starting to say, I'm the actor and I get to choose my lines. I get to choose how I perform this. And I get to choose to ad lib and do these other things, which make it more interesting and authentic.
Hello and welcome to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. We get curious about all things gender, sex, and sexuality, as well as relationships, feminism, the inclusive kind, mental health and kink, and all that makes us humans unique and diverse. From body positivity to body dysmorphia, it's all welcome here. If you like what we do and want to make a contribution, you can become a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. Now join us on a journey of inclusion, acceptance, and respect. I'm your host, Esther Lemons. I am a queer woman, and my pronouns are she and they. In this episode, I have a conversation with Angela LOCASHIO, aka Mama Pistachio, a trauma-informed educator and coach and sexologist. Angela's pronouns are she and her, and she says she's always open to they-them. She's an autistic, queer, genderqueer woman. Find out what that means to Angela in this episode. We also talk about following social scripts and role-playing, how authenticity and performance are not mutually exclusive, vulnerability, understanding all parts of ourselves, how we are wired to choose acceptance over authenticity, being yourself in the workplace, the intersection between gender and neurodivergence, and how we are all normal. Please be aware we talk about cancer in this episode. It was recorded on the 18th of March 2022. Now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome. What's your name?
I am Angela LOCASHIO. Some people
Hello,
call me
Angela.
Mama Pistachio. Whatever is most comfortable for you.
Yeah. Where does the Mama Pistachio come in?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was a teacher in public education, and the kids loved the LOCASHIO rhymed with pistachio.
Right.
They called me Miss Pistachio, and some of them called me Mom, so it kind of turned into that.
Aw.
And then along with my husband went away to boot camp, and he was a little bit older than some of the other, than all of the other. He was the oldest person who was there in the group, and they called him Papa Pistachio. And he would share some of the things that I said in letters and that sort of thing. So, it just all goes together.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like it. Yeah. So, let's talk about gender, shall we?
Okay.
So
let's
you
go.
gave me, actually, this is really interesting. So you gave me the labels autistic, queer, and genderqueer, and woman. So, I was curious about the queer as well as genderqueer, and I wondered what the difference is for you, because I use queer, but like genderqueer doesn't feel quite right to me, because I guess I don't feel genderqueer enough or something. I don't know. But so what is the difference, or what does queer mean to you? What does genderqueer mean to you?
I think the queer in both of them is the same thing. Really, it just means that there's this fluidity and, gender for me anyway, and sexuality and who I'm attracted to, and all of that, it's all very contextual. And therefore, there's no one good label for it, and society needs labels, right? But there's no one good label for my sexuality, and there's no one good label for how I feel gender-wise as a human being. So queer is the best word for it. One of my little taglines is awkward, weird, and wise. So I kind of embrace queerness anyway as something that is, why do I have to follow the social script? I don't. And other people see that as bizarre. And queer used to be a very derogatory term. It used to be something that people would say to hurt other people. And we've kind of, some of us, right? Some people still really don't like that. And I try not to use that word if I know that it's painful for that person. Yeah. But I embrace it. For me, it's a whole life. It's who I am as a human being. So saying the queer and genderqueer just helps other people understand that is encompassing sexuality and gender.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way they kind of feel, well, inseparable, maybe. Overlapping, definitely. Yeah, yeah, because I like queer and also like in my sexuality mostly, but also kind of as a human. I just feel like unusual, quirky, different. I don't know. I always kind of have, really. Yeah, so you mentioned social scripts. So, yeah, let's talk about those a little bit. Like, is this
Oh,
also
right.
where the woman comes in, I guess, for you? Because we all get taught about, how we can be, how we cannot be, what we should and shouldn't do or look like, etc. So, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And I know some people are like, well, how does that work? Genderqueer and woman. Hmm.
yeah.
Well, living in a society where you're told what it means to be a girl
Mm-hmm.
and you grow up as a girl. And I grew up, my mom wasn't around, and my dad, brothers, that all that side of the family were conservative. I was very much outside of the box, very different than everybody else. And I was constantly told, young lady, be a lady. This is what it means to be a girl. Stop
Mm-hmm.
running around without your shirt on. You're a girl. Um, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So for me, I was able to really embrace parts of girlness, and I understand that. I love being a mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to be called a parent because I'm a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good and comfortable with that. I also don't mind, and I like it sometimes, putting on a dress if it's a comfortable one with the right fabric and that sort of thing.
If it has
Putting on a
pockets.
dress and pockets, of course.
Yeah.
Tank dress with pockets, you can't lose. Um, I don't mind that at all. I don't mind
Mm-hmm.
putting on the heels. I actually had a whole team of people under me selling makeup, and it was
Mm-hmm.
all, makeup, makeup, makeup. But one thing that I realized in all of this is I was trying desperately to fit into this. What does it mean to be a girl? What does it mean to be a woman? And I
Mm-hmm.
always struggled with my relationships with other women. Always.
Right.
I've always been able to, I'm the typical tomboy. Um, been
Yeah.
able to have great relationships with males and have friendships with men and queer folks, but
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really struggle with women. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what, cisgender women, what's going on? And it was
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying so hard to fit into something that I just don't quite fit into.
Mm.
And when I would perform and spend the energy and effort performing, because gender is performative, right?
It is.
So when I would perform, then I was accepted.
Mm-hmm.
When I did not perform in that way, I was not accepted.
Yep.
And of course, it can happen with anybody that way, but I really felt the sting of it with other
Mm-hmm.
women. So I happily accept the womanhood, the experiences that I have gone through as a woman, like oppression, like catcalls,
Mm-hmm.
like slurs and expectations and lack of expectations because you're a female.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is part of my experience because I am born a female and
Mm-hmm.
have played the role of woman. So
Yeah.
I'm not willing to get rid of that. But as we start having the conversation more and more about gender, it was important for me to help people who need to understand that it's not this inside the box woman that society expects. That's not what you're going to get from me. It's not who I am. I've never been that. I tried to fit that box. It doesn't work for me. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll jump in, but I get to choose when to push the lid off and get out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in a way, some people say, oh, like, especially with the whole feminist thing, I guess, oh, if you're a good feminist, then you should not be like a stereotypical quote unquote woman. I mean, whatever that is, you know?
Right.
But like, yeah, you say social scripts, but in a way, like, if you're just expressing yourself the way you want to express yourself, who cares if it's a stereotype or not? That's another construct, isn't it? So,
It's Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just it. It's everything is a construct of society to help people feel comfortable and safe.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like, our brains have not been designed to deal with things that are uncomfortable and unfamiliar. We perceive those as danger. And
Mm.
then we have this nervous system response
Mm.
that is uncomfortable. We go into fight flight mode and we don't like it.
Mm.
So we're in a space right now in society where everybody's kind of, I say everybody very loosely, looking at this script that we have written
Mm-hmm.
for this play that we are performing called living. And we're starting to say, I'm the actor and I get to choose my lines. I get to choose how I perform this. And I get to choose to ad lib and do these other things, which make it more interesting and authentic.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I like the word authenticity, and I think it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but there is a lot in it. Like, I mean, it's in a way that is about being authentic, isn't it? Like you say, you get to choose how you perform that, because in the end, it's like, I mean, where's the line between performance and like the authenticity? Are they opposites or can they coexist? What do you think?
I think that they coexist. A lot of people
Mm.
ask me, I'm a sexologist, and
Yeah.
I had this great podcast that I did, and he asks me, is it ever okay to not be your authentic self?
Mm.
And I said, no. However, let me put this whole thing into perspective.
Mm.
By the way, that podcast is called Royally Screwed. I didn't want to talk about him and not actually give the name of the podcast. It was cool.
That's fair.
So we get to choose intentionally how we present ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at a situation and we see that a situation is unsafe, and therefore being 100% raw is not an option because it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still authentic if you are intentional about how you are presenting yourself, and you are still presenting yourself in a way that you want, not that somebody else wants, but that you want to present yourself.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
nothing is ever separate. Everything intersects with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we can see that intersection or not,
Mm-hmm.
everything intersects with everything else. So there are times when you are going to not be raw, but still
Mm-hmm.
be authentic. Now, let me give you an example of this from my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is a Marine, and we love and support all the things, but I am not a big person on getting dressed up in formal attire and
Mm.
attending an event with a lot of people that's going to be loud that I don't quite know the expectations for, because they're a little
Mm.
bit different for each individual. A lot of small talk happening, all of these things. Not
Mm-hmm.
my cup of tea, but it is a requirement. It is part of the job,
Mm-hmm.
is the annual Marine Corps Ball.
Yeah.
It's part of it, and it's part of the experience. So for me to be able to actually enjoy it and to present myself authentically, because we have to have some authenticity in order to have enjoyment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to put on the formal dress. I have to do my hair. I can choose to put makeup on or not, but in that, go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
We are role players. And I'm like, I'm going to jump into a character who I have created, who I love to play regularly. And she's going to have an adventure.
Mm.
She's going to go do this thing. And I turn it into a game.
Yeah.
That's
I like that.
100% authenticity right there. That is me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm presenting myself in a way that follows the script,
Mm-hmm.
even though I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't normally on a day-to-day basis present myself in that manner.
Yeah.
But
That
I
makes
can still
sense.
do it within my authenticity and within my integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you feel vulnerability fits into all that?
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability fits in um, a lot of times in the conversations that happen beforehand. I lean quite heavily on my partner.
Mm-hmm.
I need him, especially in social situations, to be able to read my cues, to understand, and to help me if I am feeling uncomfortable and I need some support. I need him to hold
Mm-hmm.
my hand. I need him to squeeze me. I need him to help me move away from a situation. That takes a lot of vulnerability, right? To have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It takes vulnerability to be willing to put yourself into a situation that might create a lot of anxiety. And let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I could put masks on. I can mask for days. And
Mm-hmm.
I did it for years and years and years,
Mm-hmm.
where I can throw a party, I can schmooze a room, I can do all of these things. But it is exceptionally draining and exhausting for me if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the one who planned it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you feel like that's where the neurodivergence comes in?
A
Is
hundred
that when?
percent.
Yeah,
A hundred
yeah.
percent. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because I don't, if I planned it, I know exactly what my role is, what the
Mm-hmm.
expectations are of me.
Yeah.
If I'm going into somebody else's thing and
Mm-hmm.
they have planned it, I'm not certain. So vulnerability might come in with me asking, what's the dress code here?
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations of me
Mm-hmm.
in this? Talking to other people, understanding, and sometimes being able to mirror other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have somebody in advance who you can say, you know what, I need your support in this. Here's what we're gonna do. For years and years, I didn't know how to be a girl. Even though I was
Mm-hmm.
raised, you are a girl, I didn't know how to do the appropriate social script of being a girl. As in,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to do makeup. I was raised by a man and I was surrounded by men all the time. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how to do makeup, fix my hair, things like this. I would wear one of my friends loves this particular one, a long white and black striped, like Beetlejuice looking skirt with a Harley Davidson t shirt, high top tennis shoes, and a bandana. Well,
Nice.
that's definitely not following any kind of script, right? But damn, I
Yeah.
tried. So, in those kinds of
Yeah.
situations, being vulnerable means my friend who, that's how she met me. That was the first time she ever met me. That's what I look like. But her kind of talking to me and saying, well, yeah, people look at you like you're a weirdo because this. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't want that, then you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And being vulnerable enough to say, yeah, I need your support. Help me with this. Or, nah,
I'm
I
good.
might need your support after because I'm going to do this my way
Mm.
and people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's where the vulnerability comes in, is really just those
Mm.
conversations and the communication.
Yeah, communication is such a big thing. I feel like because of the things that I've been learning, I feel like doing this podcast and the conversations I've been having over all these years with people has really opened up certain things for me as well, and the way I understand myself and the world, and realizing that my communication skills weren't very good. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on those. Yeah, and I think there's so much stuff we don't get taught because of with all the social scripts also comes, yeah, certain behaviors, certain things are acceptable, not acceptable, certain things we can avoid in usual, monogamous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, there's so much in it, isn't there? So, do you feel like, I mean, growing up, like you said about being a tomboy, I feel like I have a very similar experience as well, actually. Well, similar in like how I understand what being a tomboy means to me. Obviously, I was always
Mm-hmm.
climbing trees and all sorts of things. But like, how was that? When did you really start thinking about gender and where your place in that is and how it all fit together for you?
Um, I would say pretty early on. I
Mm-hmm.
remember being very, very confused at about 4 or 5 years old, being told that I needed to wear a shirt.
Right.
Angela, go put a shirt on. why? I why?
Mm. Yeah.
I could not wrap my head around because you're a girl.
Mm.
That did not make sense to me. Now, I went through puberty very early,
Mm-hmm.
and started, and had breasts. The breast size that I have now, I had at like 9 years old. I
Wow.
didn't want them.
Mm.
I was not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I would rap.
Oh, you would. Oh, bind. Do you mean bind
I
in a
would
way?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
not in any kind of safe way. I used ace bandages, whatever I could get my hands on. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, and so I was thinking about it then. And I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about why wasn't I born a boy?
Mm.
I don't want this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like this. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I got older and started having experiences as a grown ass woman who
Mm-hmm.
understood sexuality that I was able to really embrace the woman in me.
Mm. How did that?
Um,
How did that look? Like, say, embracing the woman in you. You say a bit more about that.
I would say it's even probably after I had cancer.
Mm.
I had gynecological cancer.
Right.
Funny enough, all of my anger and angst and frustration about not being able to be my authentic self as a
Mm.
sexual being
Mm.
all went to my female organs and said, okay, you're angry at us? Fine. Bam, here's some cancer for you. Get rid of us.
Wow.
And I think just through that process, I started really looking at and trying to understand myself. Now, mind you, when I was 15, I started studying sexuality. When I was
Mm-hmm.
15, I said, I'm going to be a sex therapist. I didn't
Cool.
do it. It wasn't the ladylike thing to do. I went into nursing and then teaching and,
Mm-hmm.
did all of the girl stuff that I was supposed to do.
Right.
Today, at 45 years old, I am a certified clinical sexologist, not a
Mm-hmm.
sex therapist. Two different things. I am not a therapist. But I started studying that and looking at it, but I didn't understand it until the cancer like smacked me upside the head and said, look, pay attention. When you have to
Wow.
look your 12-year-old child in the face and say, I have cancer, and you have to see the absolute fear
Mm.
in their face that
Wow.
smacks you upside the head, right? Like, bam.
Mm.
So I really started
Yeah.
looking at it and paying attention to it. And at that time, I was a teacher and I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely performing.
Mm.
I was dress and high heels and makeup and hair done every single day, no matter what. Married to
Mm.
a very, very nice man, but one who said, flip flops are bad. You don't wear flip flops.
Mm.
You don't go to the store in sweatpants or pajamas or leggings or whatever. Like,
Mm.
these are the things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it looks like to be a grown up woman. This is what it looks like to be a grown up man, to be a couple, to be a mom.
Mm.
Um, and so I really started looking at all of that.
Yeah.
And that's when I was able to say, you know what? I have these experiences as a woman. I'm going to keep those,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
I need to really understand the whole person, who I am, all of the parts of me.
Mm.
And that's when I really started purposefully and intentionally having relationships with other women,
Mm-hmm.
trying to understand how to communicate based on their intersections and their life experiences rather than
Mm-hmm.
them being against me, trying to understand what womanhood has been like for them, the
Mm.
messages that they have received, and
Mm-hmm.
how I can kind of fit in to all
Mm-hmm.
of that. Are you familiar with the model? It's either Rain Dove or Dove Rain. Are you familiar with
Oh,
them?
rain dove. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rain Dove. That's right.
Yeah.
They did a whole like TED talk on gender capitalism, and I get to
Wow.
choose this or that. And now they are absolutely able to truly choose between the two because
Mm.
they easily can fit into the mold as
Mm-hmm.
a man or as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Not, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous woman with this beautiful figure, put on a dress, and bam, woman. And
Mm-hmm.
then over here in a suit and tie, somehow look very much the part of a man.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I can't do that. I always look like a girl.
Right. Yeah.
I always look like a woman no matter what. So I don't have that benefit to be able to play that far into
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm never going to be mistaken for a male.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me a little bit sad sometimes because I think it would be really, I would like that. But that's not my reality.
Yeah.
So I have to choose how I'm going to do this, and it's internal for me.
Mm-hmm. Internal, you say.
Yeah. I
You
don't want
mean,
anybody
yeah.
who's listening to think that my experience and me being able to say this is an internal thing and I don't need society to do this and this is my reality. I don't want anybody to hear this and think that that's what I think anybody else should do. But
Yeah.
that's for me. For me, it's just so fluid.
Mm.
There are times and contexts when I feel very, very, very connected to what society says it means to be a woman. And therefore, I feel like a woman. I'm like, yes, I am winning this today. Look at me. I am this amazing woman. Right. And then there are other times when I'm like, oh, I am totally failing as a woman. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to be that right now.
Yeah, so it sounds like getting this diagnosis really changed things for you and made you like reunite all the parts of you, I suppose. You know?
It did. It forced me to say, where is the anger, the frustration, the bitterness that you
Mm.
carry coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to let that go?
Mm. Yeah.
That was really the question that it asked.
Mm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
had to figure it out. Otherwise, I was going to die.
Wow, that is such an insightful perspective, really, because a lot of people, I guess, would put themselves in the hands of, the medical establishment, which is fair enough, each to their own. But also that I feel like there's always layers to things, aren't there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
Right.
symptoms and causes and like holistic approaches and things like that. It's very interesting. Yeah. How old were you when you got the diagnosis? How long ago is it?
I was 34. So
Yeah.
this is year 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congrats for
Thank
beating
you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
Wow.
gets your attention, right? It definitely gets your attention. And you
Mm.
have to when they are saying we are going to take out all of these parts of you,
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at yourself and say, how do I feel about that? Number one, get it the hell out. I don't want this thing that is growing in me that is trying to kill me. Get it
Mm-hmm.
out. But when they say, we are going to take out your uterus, your cervix, all of the surrounding tissue, ligaments, all of that, we're going to take the top third of your vagina. We're
Mm.
taking all of this. It's all gone.
Mm.
And you're like, what does that mean to me? Did that define me as a person?
Mm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it did not define me as a person, but
Mm-hmm.
for society, it did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a thing, isn't it? Like I found especially like the whole question like what is a woman? It's really used as this, gotcha question that they just
Mm-hmm.
use to, trap people with really. If they want to catch them out or something. And it is so important to figure out like what it means to you and how or not it defines you. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I found you in the octopus movement
Mm-hmm.
with Perry Knoppert. You had a conversation with him, and you talked about, a bit about the social scripts and authenticity as well, and what is normal. Like that's such a big subject, right? Sort of, I
Right.
feel like that sort of continues nicely. So, like, I don't even know what normal means. Like, I have my normal, in my experience, and 7 billion or more other people have theirs,
Right.
But there are things that are normative or normalized, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that when it comes to like being a genderqueer woman?
So I have these authors, these twin sisters who are authors,
Mm-hmm.
Emily and Amelia Nagoski,
Yeah.
and they've written a couple of books.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Nagoski, I was introduced to her, not personally, but to her writing first. She
Mm-hmm.
wrote an amazing book called Come As You Are.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, she talks about in going to colleges, teaching in college, and one of the messages that her students would regularly give as feedback when she would say, "What is something that you learned in this class?" And over 50% of them would say, "I am normal." Now, this is specific to sex and sexuality, but I think "I am normal" goes for everybody.
Mm.
We are all freaking normal because we have this word that says, if you fit within this box, then you are normal. And if
Mm.
you don't, you are abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
But who decides? Who decides how big the box is, what the box looks like? Society decides that based on their own comfort levels. And the
Mm.
fact of the matter is, we are all normal. The only abnormal thing about us is that we consistently try to fit something. We consistently try to play a part that doesn't belong to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is abnormal.
Yeah.
So we all strive really, really, really hard not to be normal. When in actuality, it's normal to strive to not to be normal. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
this guy walking down the street, actually stopped at a stoplight one day. There's no traffic coming. And they have the full on big spiked, like 80s spiked up hair with an anarchy shirt and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're stopped at a stoplight with the hand raised saying, "Don't go." And they're waiting, even though there's no traffic coming. And I am laughing my ass off, thinking that this is the most hilarious thing, right?
Right.
There are all of these different parts of, I just think that's just such a great example, right? They're
Yeah.
striving so hard to not be normal, but following rules at the same time. So we're all normal. Having a mental health issue is normal. Breaking a rule, doing something bad, feeling shame, it's all normal. Your body looking the way your body does, it's normal. It's just normal.
Yes. And one of the things that stood out for me in the conversation that you had with Perry was saying I don't care what people think is a trauma response. And I feel like I've definitely been there and said that. And I kind of see how that fits together. Yeah. And it's also about feeling accepted, isn't it? So I was thinking about feeling accepted, but it depends on like how we let people know us, I feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in this role of like being a people pleaser, which is very much part of, how I was brought up, then it's interesting because I realize then you can't trust other people's love because they don't know who they're loving because you're playing this part all the time. You're not being
Yep.
authentic in a way, and you're like ignoring your own needs and all sorts of, delightful stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah, which is again where the authenticity comes in. Where was I going with that? I don't know. I'm just sort of weaving it round, and then let's
Well,
think.
it is a trauma response, right? To
Yeah,
say "I don't care"
yeah.
is a trauma response. We can be aware that other people are going to do this and make choices to
Hmm.
go against what they want.
Hmm.
But we care. As human beings, we do care what other people think.
Hmm.
It matters in so many different intersecting areas of our lives.
Yeah.
What other people think does matter. And if you are saying, "I don't care, I don't care, I don't freaking care,"
Hmm.
then why don't you care?
Hmm.
What about it? Is it you don't care because it hurts you to care?
Mm.
Because really, looking at Gabor Mate, he is the one who really talks about acceptance and authenticity, and
Mm-hmm.
how if you have to choose between acceptance and authenticity, you're going to choose acceptance every time,
Mm-hmm.
and your authenticity is going to go to the wayside. Because
Yeah.
as human beings, technically we need both. We need both to thrive in this world. But as human
Mm-hmm.
beings, from the time that we are born, we depend on other people.
Mm-hmm.
If a baby does not have human touch and is not able to make a connection with another human being,
Mm-hmm.
they will die. It's
Mm-hmm.
called failure to thrive. They
Mm-hmm.
will die. That's why they have volunteers and people in hospitals who sit and hold babies,
Mm-hmm.
because they literally need it to live. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
go away when you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
We still need love and acceptance from other people. And when we do not have love and acceptance from other people, when we feel that we are on the outskirts, when we are othered, when we are not accepted for our authentic self and who we are, we experience trauma. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have addictions, and we have anger, and we have all of these different things that we
Mm-hmm.
do to help us deal with the emotions of not feeling loved and accepted.
Mm. Yeah. I wonder, it's probably a very good explanation for why it's so difficult for people, especially gender non-conforming people, I guess, and even like different sexualities, I suppose, like for people to come out because there is a genuine fear
Mhm.
and justified fear, I guess, of like, being cast out of the tribe as they used to, which means certain death in the past, I guess.
Yep,
So,
absolutely 100%.
yeah, yeah.
And we
So,
shouldn't have
yeah,
to have that fear, right?
no,
That fear is what shouldn't be normal.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what's not normal, is that we are afraid to be ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because we could die
Mm-hmm.
by being ourselves.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with society that
Mm-hmm.
people feel that way? That's what's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it is normal.
Yeah.
That's the
That's where we're
normal
at.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what our
Mm.
brains do, right? Like our
Yeah.
brains, our not the not the evolved front brain that we have that actually can be rational and make decisions. When people are doing that, they're using their back brain, and they're using this brain that is from a time when there really was danger all
Mm.
around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
rational thinking brain that we have, that we need to use today and say, what the fuck, people? Why are
Yeah.
you willing to kill another human being because they're not like you?
Mm.
That's not rational.
Mm. Yeah. A lot to unpack there, right? Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So, in your work, is there anything in particular that you've learned about gender and sexuality and all that in your work that you can think of?
So much, everything that we're talking about here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really that intersection, that
Yeah.
intersecting piece is what it
Mm.
is. I do like diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
Mm-hmm.
I work mostly with professionals in how am I going to navigate transitioning when I have all of these other things going on. I'm transitioning at work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a teacher. And
Mm.
last year, at the end of the year, I was a male as far as
Mm.
everybody was concerned.
Mm.
And today, I'm a woman. How am I navigating that?
Yeah.
And I do this for, again, I am not a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am not a therapist. But I do work in conjunction with therapists who, if somebody's working with a therapist who is not necessarily a sexuality professional, then that's where I can come in, and we're a team working together to support somebody as they are going through
Mm.
this. Working with companies and saying, how do your policies affect people How does your dress code affect people?
Mm-hmm.
If your dress code says you have to be like this and it's very binary,
Mm-hmm.
that's an issue,
Yeah.
right? So those are
Mm-hmm.
the kinds of things that I do, and because of my work as a sexologist, the more I worked with individuals, the more I realized how important it was for me to be talking to workspaces,
Mm-hmm.
organizations about we need to be talking about sex at work. We need to talk about sex at work, period. Like somebody at work should not be feeling shame about who they had sex with last night.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
just shouldn't. They shouldn't be feeling shame that they have long hair, wear makeup, and have a beard, because
Mm-hmm.
that's who they are and that's who they want to be. And in letting them be that person and letting them fully embrace who they are, gender, sexuality, orientation,
Mm-hmm.
names, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and letting them do that, that's when you're going to get the most productivity out of an employee. And that's
Yeah.
when you're going to have the most productivity as an employer, is
Mm-hmm.
when you have that kind of space. So I think that is where I've gotten the most. I don't know that I had put all of those intersections together consciously
Yeah.
until I really started doing the work, looking at the research, looking at the lack of research,
Mm.
talking to people, understanding people's experiences, and really understanding there's this big connection that I'm seeing. And there's tiny little bits of research on it, but not very much. This big connection with gender and neurodivergence.
Mm.
These two things intersect and visibly intersect. And so you can't necessarily look at one without looking at the other.
Mm.
You can't have an inclusive space in a workspace for neurodivergent employees without also having an inclusive space for gender nonconforming folks, because
Mm-hmm.
they intersect.
Yeah.
So looking at inclusion as a whole, it
Mm.
must include sex and sexuality. We have to be having this conversation,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? Like when I look at
Yeah.
somebody and I say wearing a corset at work can increase your productivity, people
Interesting.
might look at me and say, "What the hell are
What?
you talking about?" And
Yeah.
I can say, "Okay, well, first of all, if it makes you feel good about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
when you feel good, you work better."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Secondly, we can start looking at the sensory side of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we've got, maybe it helps you connect better with your gender and makes you feel good about yourself. Cool. So
Mm-hmm.
there we've got the gender side of that. And now let's look at some neurodivergence, and let's look at a sensory profile of somebody who really does well and they handle stress better when they have pressure applied to them, physical pressure applied to their body.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
wearing a corset at work can increase your productivity. And that's just one example that I like, because it very
Yeah.
quickly gives people an image in their head.
Yeah. That's so insightful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what I
Yeah.
mean by these intersecting things that we need to think about. And I think that the work that I have
Mm.
done and the people who I have been blessed to work with have provided me with that opportunity to learn that and start that
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Amazing. Yeah. And in the end, it does come down like if you run a business, you want people to, well, in the end, you want people to be productive. Unfortunately, that's a
Yeah,
priority, isn't it?
absolutely.
Rather than for people to feel happy and well. But I think people forget that people feeling happy and well, goes hand in hand with like productivity usually.
Right,
So
right. And
yeah.
productivity isn't a bad word.
Mm,
It kind of gets a bad rap
mm,
because it's been used in the wrong way. But let's look at
yeah.
the context of this.
Mm-hmm,
Human beings need to know that they're making some kind of an impact, a difference in the world around
mm,
them.
yeah.
Being productive helps us do that.
Mm-hmm,
It's in being productive authentically that
yeah.
matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yes. Ah, God, so many intersecting things we've just talked about. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't talked about yet?
I mean, I could go on and on and on for days. You cannot have the conversation of gender without having the conversation of other intersecting things. As I'm sure you've seen in
Mm.
every single one of your episodes, you don't just talk about gender. There's
Nope.
always something else that goes in there. And,
Yep.
I hope that people understand that it's a label.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand how having a label can help an individual process who they are and show up in that space
Mm-hmm.
authentically and within their integrity. But ultimately, it's a label. Labels can be ripped off, they can be changed as many times as you want them to.
Yep.
So when you are creating your own label, whether it's for yourself or to help everybody else understand, which ultimately is for yourself, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
that acceptance piece.
Yeah.
Use a label that can be wiped off,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And be vulnerable enough to wipe it off and put something else there or to leave it blank.
Mm. Yeah.
Just because you put it there once doesn't mean you're stuck with it.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to wipe it off. You can paint over the top of it if you want to. That's what I
Mm.
did with Woman, right? Like I keep that. That's
Mm.
just a layer of my paint. I just
Yeah.
painted something over the top of it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that
still
makes
part of who
sense.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I love that. When I talked to Jen a few episodes ago, they also talked about, leaving the label blank or just picking a new one from a basket.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Angela.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay. You can find out more details on the website at 50shadesofgender.com/Angela, where you can also read the transcript. And you can find Angela on her website, mamapistachio.com, and on Discord and LinkedIn. Links are on the episode page. Thank you for listening to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. You can find us online at 50shadesofgender.com, on social media, and on YouTube. Again, if you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. We hope you will listen again. Until then, stay curious and open-minded. Oh, sorry,
Hope
there's a plane coming over here. I was just muted my microphone. I'm just gonna have to wait. It's still there. I don't know if you can hear it, but
I cannot hear it, but
no, it
I
does
live on a
usually show
base
up on
and we
the
have it all the time.
yeah. Anyway, let's just go away. Oh, it's nearly gone. Yeah, it's on the way out. God,
I mean, life happens, right? All of the normal stuff carries on even when we're
it sure
podcasting.
does. Yeah, yeah. Definitely. So, got another plane. It's like, okay. Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Give a second.
Sorry, I eat my bacon.
Oh, lovely.
Turkey.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.